Headed out to work this morning, got some thunderstorms rolling in. The weather keeps going back and forth here in Kentucky. We had snow a week or two ago, and now we've got thunderstorms. But special thing going on today is that today is the day that this Jeep is actually going to roll 200,000 on my way to work. So I'm gonna pull over somewhere and get a picture of the odometer. I mean, not that it's that big of a deal. There are certainly lots of Jeeps, and other vehicles for that matter, that have this kind of mileage on them. But anyway, I think it'll be a great time to do a little review on this Jeep, seeing as how it is now exactly 5 years old and has 200,000 miles on it. So once I get off this terribly bumpy gravel road, we'll do that. I wanted to get a video of it rolling, but of course it happened as I was making a left turn to get into the parking space that I decided that I wanted. Oh well, that's how it goes sometimes. Like magic, bam, there it is. Well, like I said, I know that 200,000 miles is not some groundbreaking thing we've never seen before. That's not the point. But at the same time, you don't see 5-year-old Jeeps with this kind of mileage on them all the time. So I guess the point of the video is just to kind of show you how these things are holding up. You know, I know that especially this time of the year, there's a lot of people who are shopping for a used SUV. And normally the Jeep Grand Cherokee ends up at the top of the list. You know, people are interested in them. But I think there's a lot of false information out there about these things being junk. You know, people just, for some reason, have always had this negative view of Chrysler brand vehicles, right? And, you know, I've had lots of Chrysler brand vehicles over the last 20, 25 years. Ram trucks, Jeeps, Dodge cars. You know, I've had a lot of them. There's been a lot of them in our family, and I've had a lot, and never had any major trouble out of a single one of them. In fact, they have been the best vehicles that we've ever had in terms of reliability and quality. Honestly, I really mean that. You know, and I've had Toyota, Nissan, Ford, GM, all of those brands. You know, and the Chrysler stuff has always been the best to me. So, you know, I just don't really get where this negative view of these vehicles comes from. But anyway, so this Jeep 2020 Grand Cherokee Limited, 200,000 on the clock. How's it doing? It's doing fantastic. You know, I've had some time to, you know, drive this thing for several weeks, put some mileage on it. You know, I've done a little bit of work to it, which we'll get to in a minute, and some maintenance. But the vehicle is a great vehicle. It's holding up well, and it's doing fantastic. So I want to kind of turn the camera around now and kind of show you this Jeep at this mileage. And I think it's kind of impressive. But I guess before I get there, let's talk about how it drives, right? So honestly, this Jeep drives better than any vehicle that I've ever had, with the exception of maybe that 2022 Ram Laramie that I was leasing a couple of years ago. I mean, this thing drives really nice. So the steering is perfect on this. It's got the electric steering. It's got 3 different modes you can set depending on what kind of steering feel you like. I've tried all of them, and I kind of like it on the normal setting, honestly. But it's got a lot of steering assist. You know, I can steer this Jeep with one finger if I want to. You know, if you come from a mid-size vehicle like, say, the Nissan Frontier, for example, which doesn't even feel like it's got power steering. It feels like driving a 1980s vehicle. You know, even the brand new Frontier feels that way, which we had on the channel a couple years ago. But anyway, this is totally different. This has a lot of steering assist, very easy to steer, very easy to park. The turning radius is amazing on this thing. It handles great. It's very comfortable sitting in the driver's seat. You know, I'm about 6'3", and I have no trouble at all here with headroom, leg room, hip room, shoulder room, anything. It's comfortable, and it steers really nice, so it doesn't fatigue you. The brakes feel great on this thing. Now, I didn't realize it when I bought this, but some of these Jeeps had what they called heavy-duty brakes, and I guess that came on the models that had the Hemi V8 engine and or maybe the factory towing package. This Jeep has the standard brakes on it, but they are fine. I mean, they stop really well. Lots of braking power, no pulsation or shaking at all. The brakes feel great. They're nice and linear and smooth. I really like that. Throttle response is a little bit not perfectly dialed in. This Jeep has sport mode. It also has what's called an eco mode. So there's 3 different drive modes you can have. And, you know, it's all selectable with buttons on the dash. I've tried them all. You know, the throttle response and accelerating from a red light is not perfectly linear. I feel like they could do a little bit of a better job on that. But overall, it's not bad, and it has great acceleration and great power. I mean, this engine is making 295 horsepower, and it feels like it because it's pretty quick off the line. So it drives great. It is a really great driving vehicle. And I've driven like the Toyota Highlander, the Lexus SUVs, the Ford Edge. We had a new one of those on the channel a year ago or so. You know, I've been in several competing vehicles. None of them drive anywhere as nice as the Jeep Grand Cherokee, honestly. This is really one of the nicest driving vehicles I've been in. So they did a great job on that. So as far as the interior goes, you know, I've already mentioned the delamination issue, and you can actually see it in this camera view right here. See how the corner of the screen is delaminating, and it's doing the same thing on that other corner up there. That's a pretty common issue on these Grand Cherokee vehicles. I have read that eventually it can potentially get so bad that the touchscreen stops working very well. This one doesn't have that problem. Everything still works normally on the touchscreen. So I'm going to just let it go for now. If it gets to the point one day where it's so bad that the touchscreen's being finicky and not working, I will just repair it at that point. But that delamination is pretty common on these. And it may be an issue in the Ram trucks and the Dodge cars also. I'm not sure. I've never heard of it in those vehicles. But for some reason in these Jeeps, it's pretty common. And that's one of the first things you'll find if you search online is this delamination of the radio issue. But having said that, this can be repaired. You can buy these screens online and do it yourself. You can send it off to a repair service like infotainment.com, for example. They offer a repair service. Well, they will professionally repair this for you. So it's not a major crisis. And like I said, it still works. Other than that, everything works 100% normally. All the buttons still have the lettering on them. Everything works. The heated seats, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, automatic climate control is so nice. One of my favorite features ever. It all works fine. The air conditioning system works great. All the blend doors seem to do what they're supposed to do. They direct the air where you want it to go. Nothing clicks or clacks behind the dash. Nothing fails to work that I've noticed so far. Everything is working great on the HVAC system. Same thing on the steering wheel. You know, the buttons all still have the lettering on them. Sorry, the steering wheel's kind of crooked right now. But everything works normally. Dash display, I can turn it on here and show you. Everything is working great. And I do like how this dash has a lot of selectability to it. You can kind of make it show you the information that you want to see. You know, right now, of course, the engine is off. But if the ignition is in the on position, here, let's do that. You can go through here, and of course the engine's not running, so you're going to see the check engine light on up there because the engine is off. But I just wanted to kind of show you, you can go through and look at things like fuel economy, you know, your trip meter, start stop status. This will show you what's playing on the radio. I don't know why you need that there when you can just look over at the radio, but hey, if you want to see what's on the radio, you can see that here. Messages that might be pertinent. Let's see, what else do we have here? You can also, if you want to, those are your tire pressures, transmission temperature. Come on, camera. Oil temperature. So there's all kinds of things that you can see on the dash there that are really nice. So yeah, everything is holding up great. You can see the leather on the steering wheel is holding up really well. That's cool. The leather on the armrest here holding up really well. You know, everything looks great. All the buttons still work 100% normally. Power windows and everything doing great. This one has the memory positions on the seats, which is great. This being a limited model does not have the leather stitched dash. And that is what you want, because the people who have the leather stitched dash have a lot of trouble with the leather stitching coming apart. The leather itself actually delaminates from the dash and gets all wrinkly looking. That's been a pretty common issue on these. And I've also seen that same issue on like Ford trucks. Some of the Ford trucks have really high trim levels that have leather on the dash, and they have the same problem. So that's why I say the limited trim in these Jeeps is what you're wanting, because then you don't have to deal with that leather on the dash. So everything looks great there. Check out the seat. 200,000 miles of somebody sliding in and out of this thing, and it's not ripped, it's not torn, it's not broken down all that bad. Still got some cushioning in there. You know, leather seats are notorious for getting this looseness in them. That's just normal, really. But nothing is ripped, nothing is torn, and everything works great. Leather looks great on both sides. Oh, I got too much junk back here right now. Sorry, but I just wanted to show you the seats are really, looking good back here. I mean, the leather's looking good. I don't know if this has really ever had child seats in it. Sometimes if people have had child seats in the leather, you can see like indentations where the child seat kind of permanently marked the leather. This one doesn't seem to have that issue, so that's good. And then, of course, on the outside of the Jeep, it's dirty, because my vehicles stay dirty out here where I live. But the paint is in great condition. The paint holds up well on these Jeeps. It's not like a Nissan vehicle where it's microscopically thin. No, Jeep actually paints a vehicle, and the paint holds up pretty well. Even down here in these notoriously bad areas, I mean, this is dirt is what you're looking at there, but I don't see any rock chips or anything. The front bumper cover has a couple of rock chips in it. Like here's one right here. But I mean, with that kind of mileage, you're going to see stuff like that, you know. But overall, I'm very happy with the exterior of the Jeep and how it's holding up, doing really well. So I think, as you can see, the Jeep Grand Cherokee is a great vehicle, and even at high mileage, they hold up really well. So let's talk now about what people really want to know, which is how much money had to be spent on this Jeep to get it to 200,000 miles. Well, like I said in some other videos, I have got the Carfax service records. This Jeep was taken back to the dealership that sold the Jeep new for its service every roughly 6,000 miles. So, you know, every 6,000 to 7,000 miles, the previous owner took it back to the dealership and they did the oil and the oil filter and kind of kept up on the maintenance on this thing. And if it needed any repairs, they were the ones that did it. So I looked through their service records, and I even called them and asked them about it. I gave them the VIN number and asked them, you know, what kind of service and what kind of repair this Jeep has had over the years. And what I found out was the only repair that they did to this Jeep was the water pump. So this past summer, at about 198,000 miles, they replaced the factory original water pump. I think that's pretty amazing. That the Jeep got to that mileage and only had one repair. And to be honest with you, the water pumps on these are not expensive and they're not hard to do. You could do that job at home if you wanted to. But the previous owner of this Jeep worked for a sales company. That's where all the miles came from, and her company paid for all the maintenance. So she just took it back to the dealership and let them do it. So yeah, water pump is it as far as the repairs on the engine. Now the transmission, when I got the Jeep myself, I noticed that it had a leak, and upon further inspection, I noticed that it was just leaking from the gasket. So between the transmission and the transmission fluid pan, there's a gasket in there, right? Well, that gasket was starting to seep and actually leak a little bit. And the oil that I was seeing dripping on the ground turned out to be transmission fluid, which worked out great for me because I was planning to service the transmission anyway. You know, they say that these have lifetime fluid in them, but the engineers that built this transmission have videos online where they say that that is terrible advice. Transmission fluid is not magic. It doesn't last forever, and nor do filters. You need to change your transmission fluid and filters. So I was planning on doing service on it anyway. And when you do a transmission service on one of these 8 speeds, you actually replace the entire transmission fluid pan. So I knew I was going to get a new gasket and a new filter and a new pan anyway. When I did the service on that and replaced the pan with the new gasket, that leak went away. So as far as the driveline goes, Those are the only repairs that have been done to this Jeep. Water pump and a new transmission fluid pan gasket. And I almost don't want to even count that because that should be done during maintenance, you know, routine maintenance anyway. So almost a flawless record in terms of drivetrain. Now, you probably saw the video. I did have to repair the fuel door because this one has that mechanism. You push the button on the dash and the fuel door opens, and it had gotten floppy. So I had to take this apart and fix that myself. It didn't cost me anything to do that except an hour of my time. So I did repair that. And there was a headlight housing on the passenger side over there that I had to replace. These have projector style headlights, and something inside the headlight assembly had gotten out of whack, and it was not focusing the headlight beam properly anymore, and I couldn't repair that. So I had to buy a new headlight housing, and that was $130. I got it from a US based vendor called Brock Supply, and they shipped it to me in just a couple of days, and I replaced that myself. So that cost me 130 bucks. Other than that, no other repairs to talk of on this Jeep. Pretty awesome. Now, things that I have done because I wanted to do them, all of the maintenance. I did the front differential, the rear differential, the transfer case, the transmission. I did all of that myself to make sure all those fluids were fresh and new. Transmission filter's good to go. That cost me $350. I did all of that myself. If you took it to a dealership, they would probably charge you who knows how much, $1,500, $2,000. I don't know. It would be really, really expensive. And a lot of dealerships don't even want to do the transmissions anymore. So I did all that myself, and that way I know that all of the maintenance is caught up on this Jeep, and I saved a ton of money. I added a 2-inch leveling kit to the front. That was 59 bucks just to make the Jeep look a little better. When I got the Jeep, it did need new tires. It had mismatched tires, and that is a no-no on a Jeep that has all-wheel drive. You do not want mismatched tires. You got to have all 4 tires exactly the same. Otherwise, you can damage the transfer case. So I went ahead and spent 600 bucks and got new tires on the Jeep. So now I don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, just as far as what had to be spent on the Jeep to keep it going, not very much, honestly. Water pump, I mean, not a big deal. So again, extremely reliable vehicle. And I have had 5 of these 3.6 liter Pentastar engines now in different vehicles over the years. Back in 2012, when that engine first hit the Jeep Wrangler, I had one of those. Had a 2014 Dodge Challenger with this engine in it. Of course, the Grand Cherokee. I had a Jeep Gladiator and a Jeep JL Wrangler that had the 3.6 engine in them. I've never had any trouble out of any of them. In my opinion, it's a rock solid engine, very inexpensive to maintain, and they just seem to last forever. They get pretty good fuel economy, about 20 miles per gallon in this Jeep. They have good horsepower, easy to work on if you need to, but I haven't ever really had to do any work on them. I mean, they're just great engines, so I have nothing bad to say about them at all. So anyway, I love this Jeep. I've had, as far as Jeeps go, like I said, Grand Cherokees and Wranglers. Those are my favorite Jeeps. Those are the ones that I would buy. Those are the ones that I have had throughout the last 20, 25 years. Grand Cherokees and Wranglers, those are the Jeeps I love. Honestly, I think this Jeep is the one to go with if you're going to be driving it, you know, to and from work, to the store and back. You know, you're spending most of your time on the road. You just want something that's really comfortable and drives really nice, but you can go off-road if you want to. This is the one to go with. The Wrangler is really cool, but honestly, where I live in Kentucky, the weather's never really good to take the top off anyway. Like today, it's 35 degrees, so I wouldn't have the top off. If it's warm, it's probably going to be raining. In the summertime, it's 100 and it roasts you out here. The humidity's horrible. And next month in January, it'll be snowing. So we get very little time throughout the year to actually take the top off anyway. So honestly, I kind of like the Grand Cherokee. This is a great Jeep, and it serves the family really well. Also, you can lay the seats down in the back and have a huge cargo area if you want to haul things. If you get the Hemi V8 in these, you can tow over 7,000 pounds with them. I've got a Super Duty, so I'm not worried about that. Probably won't be towing with this, but you know, let's say you bought one of these and you wanted to tow a camper or something, you can option these things out, or you can find a used one that was optioned out to tow over 7,000 pounds. So they have good towing capacity. All around, just a great vehicle. So super happy with it. And now that we've got 200,000 on it, we'll see how things go this upcoming year, 2025, as the miles continue to rack up. You know, if anything pops up, I'll let you know. But I think it's going to be a great vehicle for a long time to come. The key is just to stay on top of your maintenance. You know, where the previous owner had the oil and the oil filter changed every 6,000 to 7,000 miles, stayed on top of that religiously. I think that really helped this engine to have a long life. But, you know, you just got to stay on top of your maintenance. Now, one thing I'm going to do, and you'll probably see in the next video, is I'm going to do an oil change on this, and I'm going to go away from the 0W20 oil specification. And we will talk all about that in the next video, why that is. But yeah, you just got to stay on top of your maintenance, and these things will treat you well for a long, long time. All right, so that's all I've got for today. I've got to actually get out of here and go run some errands. But yeah, just wanted to do a quick little review video here on this Jeep Grand Cherokee. These things are awesome. They make great vehicles. If you're shopping for one used, just find one that has service records on it, you know, where it's been taken care of, and it'll treat you and your family well for a long time. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.